It's not enough to only persuade the managers to give you time and budget for coaching. The development team also has to agree. I mean, it's all too tempting just to kind of rush in and plan some refactoring sessions and TDD training, but coaching is something a team invites you to do with them. You need their active participation. In today's video, I'm going to go through what I usually do when I'm getting a development team on board before the technical coaching starts. Hi, I'm Emily Bache. I'm a software developer and creator of Samman Coaching. Welcome to my channel. This video is sponsored by Tuple, who make an app for remote pair and ensemble programming for both Mac OS and Windows. And I'd like to show you just how smooth it is. So I'm going to call up my friend Jack to help me with this bit of code. Hi, Jack. So I can just share my screen with one click and then he can look at the code and help me out. Yeah, I spotted something he wants to change there. And Jack can just dive right in and start editing in my machine on my code. And we can collaborate really well. So do check it out. Go to their website. There's a link in the show notes. So once you've got the manager go ahead to do some technical coaching, you need to talk to the team. I usually book a coaching information and inspiration meeting. And the idea is to help everybody to know what to expect from the coaching and make sure you've got that agreement in place before you begin. I'm going to go through each agenda point and what you, the prospective technical coach, are hoping to achieve at each stage. I usually book 1 to 2 hours for this meeting, and I'll send out invitations in advance with an agenda and the needed preparation. People need to bring some code samples, and I'll explain more about that when we get to it in a minute. But first, what actually happens at the meeting. The first thing, of course, is the introductions. If you haven't worked with this team before, it's good to open the meeting with just some friendly hellos, getting to know you. I go around and ask each person to say something about what they do, how long they've been with the organization, and what is their favorite programming language. These are just kind of normal questions when I'm trying to connect over shared interests with a group of programmers. Getting everyone to talk for a couple of minutes at the start means that everyone feels noticed, and it encourages them to perhaps say more later on in the meeting. Next, I want to turn their attention to something that they care about that the coaching could help with. I've got these 5 notes on an activity board, and I want the team members to collectively order these activities from most fun to least fun. So I'll read out the notes and I'll ask them, where do you want to put this one? Is this more or less fun than the other notes we've got here? Is it fun to develop new features and clean and tidy code? Is it more or less fun to do refactoring to make code clean and tidy? Well, I think that's fun, but actually not everyone agrees. The notes are just there actually to focus the discussion and hopefully make it obvious that everyone does prefer to work with good code. And maybe some other people might enjoy refactoring too. Then I've got some slides prepared to explain why the coaching will help them to spend more time working with clean and tidy code and perhaps enjoy refactoring more or be able to do test-driven development more of the time. You also need to explain the practicalities of what to expect, what's going to happen during the coaching. So this is maybe a 10, 15, 20 minutes presentation, and I think it's a good idea that actually you find your own way to explain this. Just a quick reminder, do subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of content and like the video for today. To give you an idea, this is a compressed version of my normal presentation. This is a short introduction to the technical coaching that we've been discussing. Now, we were just talking about the fact that basically all developers prefer working in clean and tidy code. And code that's not like that is one aspect of technical debt. And I'm sure you've heard this metaphor. It's describing this slowdown that you get in feature development. It's as a bit like paying back interest on a loan. Martin Fowler talks about cruft as the stuff in the code that causes that. He says it's deficiencies in the internal quality that make it harder than it would ideally be to modify and extend the system. So these are design problems that slow you down, like this lead weight this guy's pulling around behind him. We need to keep technical debt under control so that we can keep moving forward and add new features and updates and delight our users. Now, we can't achieve perfection, we can't get it to 0, but we can adopt practices that help us to minimize it. I would like to draw a picture of those important practices, specifically at the team level for controlling technical debt and enabling high-quality frequent releases. So I'm putting test-driven development up there first in this double loop format. so I can emphasize the different roles of the tests. We've got unit tests, driving low-level design decisions. We've got acceptance tests that help the developers understand all the context of what they're building and ensure it does something really useful and interesting for the users. And around that, you've got related quality practices like exploratory testing, continuous integration, pair programming, and also thinking about the quality in the production code, we've got domain-centric architectural patterns like hexagonal. And underpinning all of this, I'm putting clean and tidy code design. I think everything else builds on that. Technical coaching is aimed to help you as you try and adopt these kinds of technical practices so that you can keep your code in a good state and have more fun at work. So my focus is very much on the way we write code and the people writing code, the development teams. I want to support the wider technical leadership in your organization. And of course, I'm really interested in your skill at achieving clean and tidy code. There's a lot of skill involved in that, but also the way your team thinks about this topic, the culture in your team, so that everyone knows that this is a priority and you have the words that you can use to talk about it. So during the technical coaching, there are a couple of main activities. We've got learning hours and we've got ensemble. So let me say a bit more about each of those. Learning hours. Now this is basically training, hands-on, using exercises to practice skills. And I'm very inspired by Sharon Bowman and her book, Training from the Back of the Room, in how I structure and plan these trainings. It's all designed to help to make it stick. And part of that is that your whole team is doing this together so that you're discussing with your colleagues and learning from one another as well as from me. Then hopefully this learning atmosphere continues as we turn to the production code in this form of development called ensemble. And this is a way of working together with the whole team, coding together, and we're going to collaborate and talk about the code we're writing. And as we're doing that, I'm there as a kind of mentor to support the development and help you to apply the skills that we've been learning in the learning hours on exercises, help you to transfer that into your situation in your production code so that you can actually see how to adopt it there. What I've just been describing is the essence of the Samman method for technical coaching, which I've written about in this book, and now we have a website and a community around this. Samman is a Swedish word, it means together. And I hope that after this presentation, you're going to want to work together with me like this sometime soon. So I hope that gives you some ideas about what you could say in your presentation about technical coaching. After my presentation, I really want to learn more about the team situation. Hopefully they'll have been asking some questions already and getting involved in a discussion, but now we want to dig a bit deeper. When I booked the meeting originally, I will have asked them to bring to the meeting 2 or 3 code samples to show me from their code base. I want to see some good code that they're happy with, and also perhaps some code they struggle with. Maybe some unit tests or code that's a bit overly complex. So hopefully at this point, somebody will be able to share their screen and I'll get to see their code. I'm not going to read it in any detail at this point. I'm just going to ask them to explain what it does, why they're showing it to me, and ideally get them to scroll through it slowly so I can just scan it and get a first impression. And maybe at this stage I can spot code smells like long method or deep nesting. Mostly though, I'm listening to the way they talk about the code, and I'm trying to work out what are the technical priorities for this team. Are they struggling with a lot of legacy code? Maybe they have bad tests, too many mocks, or they're just a bit shaky on how to do object-oriented design. I want to get a first impression of what they might need help with and reassure them that I understand. I've seen this kind of thing before. As the team shares more about their situation, and I've spent, I don't know, maybe half an hour just looking at their code and asking questions, I can start to explain how technical coaching might help them specifically. I could talk about, well, we could break up these long methods using refactoring sequences like extract method, then identify data clump, sprout class, and gradually divide this stuff up into units that really make sense. Or we could talk about test design ideas like using builder pattern or approval testing. Technical coaching is both about the code and the people, So I'll also explain how Ensemble could help them to develop a common vocabulary and learn from one another. At this stage, I'm not really trying to plan for a specific training topic or particular outcome for the team. I'm mostly trying to give them an impression of what's possible and what I know about. Sometimes I might put in a code demo and actually show them some refactoring on a code kata, something that maybe is a bit similar to some of the code they've shown me. Or I'll just talk generally about another team that I've coached that had similar problems. I want the team to see me as knowledgeable and interested in their problems and somebody they'd like to work with. Towards the end, you need to lay out what the next steps are. Hopefully, that will be them agreeing to have some coaching with you, and you could fix a date for the first session. Or they may need some more time to think it over and check with their manager again that everything's really okay. So plan to follow up with them when they've had a chance to do that. You can't force coaching on people. If your initial pitch wasn't enough to get their acceptance, try and learn from their feedback and do better next time with a different team. Or if you want to persevere with this one, see if you can find a smaller, safer step that they will agree to. Perhaps you could hold a sample learning hour or plan to watch a video from this channel together and then discuss what they think afterwards. If you'd like to find out more about technical coaching in general, perhaps join an online community of coaches, do head over to the Samman Society website, sign up for our newsletter or one of our online events. I'd love to see you there. Happy coding!